Hey everybody, this is John from Bash, and today I am bringing you another Entitled Parents Reddit video. If you are new to the channel, then subscribe, and ring that notifications bell so you don't miss out on the fun. In our first story, an entitled mother won't keep her kids off my property. So I've referenced this story a couple of times to people and decided I'd tell the full tale. I live in a rural neighborhood, everybody's got 3 to 8 acres, so we're all pretty spaced out. I live on 5 acres and my nearest neighbors are a sweet elderly couple about 1 acre from me. They're perfect. The husband does yard work as a hobby and his wife bakes. We have a nice agreement where if I need something big chainsawed, he takes the wood down and uses it for the fireplace, and in exchange I trade recipes and bake with his wife. Honestly, they just like the company. I own my own home, have 2 horses, a cat, and recently, my mom has also moved in because she was in financial trouble. I'm happy to help as she's good company and I'd do anything for her. And then everything changed when COVID attacked. So here's where things go south. My neighbor's son and his family, wife and 2 girls, 4 and 7, live in the nearest city and didn't feel safe. I don't blame them, and because my neighbors are saints, they opened their home and the brood moved right in. Up until this point, I was the youngest person in the neighborhood at 29, so having kids wander around is new for everyone. At first, it was no big issue. They stayed inside, got settled, maybe they were good kids. Total long shot, I know, but a girl can hope. So one morning, I'm letting my horses out into the front pasture, a Clydesdale and a Welsh pony, and I hear the most high-pitched squealing from next door. It was so shrill my Clydesdale second-guessed going outside, but cautiously proceeded only to be met with more squeals. I pop my head out and the 2 girls are literally losing their minds. And I get it. Little White Pony and the horse from Brave, but still, they're large animals they don't know, so they should have the sense not to approach, right? Not a snowball's chance in hell. These kids sprint to the fence shrieking. The pony runs around in panic, and the Clydesdale stands there with the same what the flip look I've got on my face. Then the 4-year-old starts to go under the fence. Hell no! Don't you dare climb under that fence, said firmly and admittedly kinda harsh, but I'll be damned if I have my horses mow over a kid. I walk over to them and they look like they're about to cry, but I explain firmly that they are big animals and could hurt them easily and to never go over or under the fence. They go home, I clean stalls. An hour in, I hear someone banging on my home's door, and I can see through my barn's hatch door that my mom and the kid's mom are having a conversation. The kid's mom then storms down to the barn. I've never met this lady, but I know an entitled parent when I see one. Joy of joys. She starts going off on me. How dare you make my kids cry? They just wanted to see the ponies, blah, blah, blah. But when she takes a breath, I get my point across. Ma'am, your youngest was crawling under the fence towards 2 large animals none of you know. That Clydesdale is a 2,000-pound draft horse. He can literally crush you, not feel it, and do permanent damage. The pony looks cute but needs an experienced hand as he is very untrustworthy, flighty, and has a tendency to bite. Your children are not allowed near them without my consent and heavy supervision, and never allowed in the pasture with them. Do you understand? When she starts ranting about, well, if they're so dangerous, why do you have them? Are you even allowed to have them? I should call animal control. That crap. They're my personal horses. Yes, I'm allowed to have them. Your kids trespassed on my property. I'm trying to keep them safe. This is not a petting zoo. She huffs off. I continue to work. Later that evening, when the husband gets home, I explained what happened. He's understandably alarmed, and I explained how dangerous that situation is. He agrees. Not that my horses are aggressive, mind you, but it's inherently dangerous in general. You've got a 50 to 200 pound human versus an 800 to 2,000 pound horse. If you don't know what you're doing, you can be seriously injured. Pure physics. So I'm optimistic with his reaction, but no, he's often not home, so I stay cautious. Later in the next week, I'm working from home and I suddenly hear screaming. Not excited screaming, scared little kid screaming. I rush outside and the 4-year-old is bawling in the middle of the pasture, with the pony doing laps around the perimeter of the fence as my Clydesdale slowly approaches the little girl. The 7-year-old is crying outside the fence and calling for her mom, but clearly their mom is not watching them. My initial terror recedes a bit because my Clydesdale is essentially a golden retriever in a horse's body. Sweetest pushover in the world. He gingerly approaches her in a slow, friendly way and being as non-threatening as he can. And with him so close, the pony won't rush them. He's probably about 3 steps from her, but I yell for him to halt, and like a good boy, he does. I make my way in with them and start asking the girl questions. Are you hurt? Being paramount. She's not, but she's clearly scared, so I pick her up and walk out, making my Clydesdale heel to me just in case the pony gets a dumb idea. The mom is still nowhere in sight, so I take them to my neighbors. What precedes is about 30 minutes of screaming and crying. The girl's mother was the one to open the door. She starts screaming at me and firing off questions before my neighbors intervene. I tell everyone exactly what happened, and my elderly neighbors blew up. At her, not me. They screamed at her for being so irresponsible and negligent. How they could have been hurt. The mom tried throwing blame on me, but they weren't having it. My neighbors apologize profusely, and I go about my day until the husband gets home. He came by and apologized too for his family's behavior, and especially the behavior of his wife. I accepted it and said I understood. They're little girls. I too know the allure of magnificent fluffy horses. The mom was at fault for not watching the kids. I'm just glad everyone was okay. The girls were still really shook up, so I extended an olive branch. Because, well, I wasn't an overexcited kid who liked horses once too, just with a horse mom who knew what she was doing. And I didn't want this to completely traumatize them from being around horses. So the next day, I properly introduced them to my Clydesdale, with him in his stall with the inside hatch open and the girls being supervised by their father and me, safe in the barn. They loved it. Clydesdale loved the attention. Everybody's happy, right? Well, except the mom, who took my olive branch as an offer to teach them horseback riding, give free lessons and other crap, but her husband shot it down hard, and presumably so did my neighbors. Since then, it's been quiet. I did, however, install a second electrical wire on the bottom, not just on the top just in case, and yes, they did test it. The 7-year-old got zapped pretty good and got in trouble with her dad. Aside from that, there have been no incidents other than them wanting to pet them when I drop evening feed once in a while. Here's hoping it stays peaceful. But seriously, don't go up to animals you don't know. Story 2. An entitled mother and her kitty car wash. This is during the time I mentioned living with a relative. Due to circumstances, I lived with my sister and her family for nearly a year. She has not worked outside of the home since before my niece was born in 2008. Both my niece and nephew, partially due to being homeschooled, partially due to the lifestyle my brother-in-law provides for them, are both somewhat entitled brats themselves. While I love them dearly, they got under my skin more times than I care to count during those 10 months. One particular occasion out of many, they decided they wanted to wash our cars. My sister happily allowed them to wash hers, and they took great care with hers. When they asked me, I politely declined and said it didn't need a wash right now. Oh, come on, they want to help out and do something nice for you. Why can't you just let them? I should note here that I was in my mid-30s, and this was the nicest car I had ever owned. As with bodily autonomy, I felt I had full autonomy over my personal property, even if I was living under their roof. I am a grown man. When I say I don't want them washing my car, I mean it. No thanks. I would really rather not. I just washed it the other day, but thanks for offering. A lie, but how was she going to know? I don't know why you're being like this. Just let them wash the car. No. Your uncle is just being ridiculous. He and I will talk about this later. You can go ahead and wash the car. Like many people on these subs, I always said I'm never going to be the guy who just stands there in awe of someone's entitlement and or stupidity. However, there I stood, with my mouth hanging open. They set to work dipping their washcloths in soapy water and haphazardly rubbing them all over my baby. I should also note that small bits of gravel lined the edge of their driveway, and they would occasionally drop the washcloths. It wasn't until after the car had dried that I noticed in the driver door was an enormous scratch in the shape of male genitalia. I showed it to sister, and she denied it was her precious angels who did that to my car. It couldn't have been them. They were so careful with my car. It had to have been. I am very particular with how I wash my car. That scratch did not exist this morning. I would know it's the door I used to get in the car. What are you going to do? Make them pay to fix it? They're kids. Good luck proving it was them. They just wanted to do something nice for you. And I said I appreciated it, but I didn't want them to. You insisted they do something against the wishes of another person, another adult at that, one whom you occasionally trust to be an authority figure to them. Are you trying to teach them to defy authority? My sister gasped and clutched her chest, obviously offended by my statement. She had nothing more to say on the subject, and it was never brought up again, as I knew better than to push too much or my brother-in-law would get involved. While he is a very intelligent man, he is also known for taking up for my sister over pretty much everyone else in pretty much every situation. We both knew it was best to drop the issue as they needed my help, the reason I was staying there, and were not about to piss me off to the point of moving out. Eventually I did, and they took issue with where I chose to move to, which is mentioned in another story. In story number 3, an entitled mother thinks that if your books are on her shelves, they are now hers. I have a fun story to share with you all about my own mother. This happened about 5 years ago. Keep in mind, at the time of this story, I'm in my 30s, married, just bought a house. Prior to this time, we lived in an apartment halfway across the country, so since we didn't have furniture or anything, the only things we took were what would fit in our car, mostly clothes. Now, my mom, the entitled mother of the story, has a bookshelf that covers an entire wall. She also loves to collect books she'll never ever read because she wants to create the impression that she's really well read and book smart. Every section of this bookshelf is categorized according to her own system that no one else knows. One tiny portion of that bookshelf, part of which is hidden behind a desk that has been pushed in front of it, had some books that belong to me. They're all books in the Catalan language, a language spoken in eastern and northeastern Spain. I can read them, she cannot. So naturally, I go to get my books and bring them to our new house. What are you doing with my books? These are my Catalan books. You can't take them, they're my books. You can't even read them. Besides, you're not studying the language, I am. But I need them in my bookshelf. You have boxes of other books you've bought that you can put in their place. But I need foreign language books. Why? In case I ever want to learn another language. Then you can learn one that isn't quite so specific. I've got a ton of Spanish books and some French ones that you're welcome to have. You can't take my books. She threw such a fit about it that I decided to leave them there and come back on a day while she was at work and get them. It has been several years and she still has no idea that they're gone. This is John from /bash. Please hit that like button to help with the YouTube algorithm and subscribe if you're new. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next one.